One person in the chat room. Oh, hello, Ludger.
There we go.
Liz thinks you're an Airbus guy.
Well, if he's intelligent and handsome, he's bound to be.
It starts. And it starts.
And so it starts. Yeah. And then till he turns the lights on, and then realizes he's not. And
All Airbus pilots are all dark
in their
and
own
handsome.
mind. In their own mind,
Yeah.
yes.
Legends in our own mind, yes.
yes.
Yeah. Go get Jilly. We want to ask her opinion about all this.
She just told me. Just before
Sure
she
did.
left. Yeah.
Yeah, she's running the teleprompter.
That's it. Oh, Tim's
Okay.
there. Hi, Tim.
Hello, Tim. You're by yourself over there on Facebook, and Liz is in the process of getting you the link. You know, I don't think I updated. I'm not sure if I put the up. Okay, good. Anyway. All right, good. Sure. Oh, Ludger, look at him being so modest. Airbus, yes. Handsome, no. I'm sure
Typical
you are.
Airbus. So nice, honest.
Humble.
And what did you
Humble,
fly again,
yes.
Nick?
Absolutely. I can't remember. It was so long ago.
Okay. Thanks, Liz. Okay. Well, so again, apologies to anybody that would rather be if you would rather be watching the PTUK live show, you wouldn't be here. But sorry, we had to kind of split the difference for you all. But this just worked out best for us to get Rick on board for this episode. So.
Oh, yeah, I can hear some
Okay.
buzzing.
Yeah, it is. I kind of have you a little bit too loud. So here, let me go ahead, Liz, say something. Okay, I have it down really low. I can barely hear you.
Tell her to shout.
I don't think they can hear you now. What do you think, guys? Can you hear Liz?
Nope.
No.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know, Mike. They're having a particularly good show, according to Main Man Micah. Oh, you're putting the pressure on us, huh, mate? You know what, Micah? Really, you should go back over. I wouldn't. Yeah, we don't want to disappoint you. I can't tell you how many times I've said that. Okay. No, just kidding. I haven't. I think, let's see, we just kind of stopped, and I said in just a few moments you're going to hear the dulcet tones of Miami Rick.
Oh, I don't know about dulcet.
And yeah, so make your tones sound dulcet. Let me see. Oh, I got to get soundbite up so I can play. What? Okay.
I think it's going to be very clever the way Steph morphs into Rick.
All right. Oh, I could do that. Hey, Steph, give me your best impression of Miami Rick. Okay, let's do that. Oops. Dang it. Dang it. Okay. So, Steph, why don't you give me the best impression that you have of Miami Rick?
Well, just went to the gym, and I love Boeings.
Oh, wow. That is really good. It sounds just like Miami Rick. Oh, wait a minute. It really is. All right. It's Miami Rick, our intrepid freight dog. I don't have the script up, so I can't tell you all the other things, but he's just one great guy, that's for sure. And he's joining us for part 2 on episode 493. Hello, Miami Rick.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be back once again from the great state of Texas. So, got a couple of really interesting things to talk about here. And I'm happy to see Nickster here again. It's been a while since I see you.
Yeah, you've been hiding. So working way too hard on the show.
Well, this is not really work. thankfully we love what we do, and so great to
Excellent.
see you, man.
Good job.
Excellent. All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and just keep going on with the groove here and the news. And we left a couple of items in here for you, sir. And let's start with 1C. Qantas breaks Australia's longest commercial flight record. They break the record with a 17.5-hour repatriation flight between Buenos Aires and Darwin. They added another historic flight to its record books after one of its planes traveled a massive 15,000 kilometers, the longest passenger flight in its 100-year history. The QF-14 repatriation flight from Buenos Aires to Darwin made the 15,020-kilometer trip in 17 hours and 25 minutes. It beat out Qantas's previous longest flight record by more than 500 kilometers. The trip between London and Perth is 498 kilometers. So beat it by, as I said, a little bit over 500 kilometers. They used a Boeing 787-9,
Of course.
carrying 107 passengers out of South America to quarantine for 2 weeks in the Northern Territory. And the flight was the return leg of a Qantas charter flight that took Argentina's rugby union team home after their games in Brisbane for the Rugby Championship. And the Department of Foreign Affairs in Australia, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade worked with Qantas to get Australians stuck in South America home. The 107 passengers were in addition to the 4 pilots who rotated throughout the flight and 17 cabin crew, engineering, and ground staff. The repatriation flight took off at 12:44 local time in Buenos Aires, tracking south of Argentina, skirting the edge of Antarctica before crossing the Australian coast at 5:28 p.m. and landing in Darwin at 6:39 p.m. local time last night. Now, this was, I don't know, a few days back. I'm not sure exactly when. Liz, if you'll show that overlay and show that track of this historic flight from Argentina.
Yeah, I was just going to say, no wonder it took them so long. They went in a huge, great big U via the Antarctic. If they'd just gone in a straight line,
I know.
It would have been like twice as quick. Yeah.
I know.
That's what I was thinking.
What's all that about?
I don't know. If they'd just gone straight across the ocean there, instead of dipping down to do some sightseeing.
Somebody needs to talk
that's
to their
right.
dispatch department here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what was wrong with
There
them.
you go. How weird is that?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, if you're a flat earther, you're probably honestly having that question in your mind.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Liz. I guess I didn't properly format that thing to cover up the entire screen. Sorry about that. Anyway, so what do you think? Quite a flight, I guess.
It's, oh man, I tell you, just haven't come back to the 7.6 for almost 2 years ago now, and the longest flight I regularly do now is from the West Coast out to Hawaii, just under 5 hours. And looking back on the the days of my 777 days and 747 days, I don't know, it's not it just doesn't have the same appeal it used to anymore. It's being
okay,
that long.
You know what? I just remembered I didn't start the darn recording. That's okay. I can get this recording from. So here, I'm going to hit my record button now.
Yep.
And from this point on, we'll have a good recording, and I'm just going to go ahead and use the recording from StreamYard from where we began. So sorry to interrupt. I guess I could have done this without saying anything.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay. So
I was just saying that just being in an airplane for that long, I was so every time I log on to the company the portal to pick up my flight plan and the paperwork and all that, I look at all the other flights that are going on, and I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. There was a flight leaving from Cincinnati going all the way to Seoul Incheon, South Korea, and it was something like 15 hours and 45 minutes, and I'm going,
wow,
man,
that just hurts thinking about it.
And I think I used to do that regularly. So it's just I'm sure Nick can attest to this. It's just when you're flying in an airplane for that long a period of time, you basically cease to exist to the world. You take off and something's going on. By the time you land, things are completely different in more than one aspect. And just being up there for that long, it's I don't know.
Nick, you were doing long duration, kind of long haul flights when you were flying.
Yeah.
What was the longest that you'd ever done?
I think very close to 17 hours.
Oh my!
What
was that?
That was from Hong Kong back to London. We were, in those days, we couldn't go through Russia and China, so we went on a southern route through. Let me think. Through Vietnam, Bangladesh, northern
through
India, and then up into Turkey. So the trouble with that route, it was right in the center of the subtropical jet stream that would sit in your face for that whole sector from Hong Kong. And at times it was so strong that you literally couldn't make it home in one go. So it was much better once we were allowed to go up into Chinese and Russian airspace. We could get north of that, and we did it, no problems. But flight planning came up with an interesting trick. So at times we would turn around and go away from London and curve up over Japan, and then pick up the Japanese routes that we had through northern Russia. And those ones had been pre-agreed with the Russian authorities, and come home on effectively a Japan route. So it was just like flying a Tokyo to London with about an extra 3 hours added on to get to Tokyo. And it used to cause enormous consternation amongst the passengers because you get airborne from Hong Kong, they'd be looking at their sky maps, and they could see that we were tracking in the opposite.
Where are they going?
But trust
Coal
me,
bales are big.
we know what we're doing. Trust me.
Exactly. And you have to come on the PA and and try and pacify everyone. But it of course it saved time, because if you'd stopped, it would be a descent approach, throw it on the ground, and add a refuel. Generally speaking, you have the risk of something breaking. You might never get off again for hours. If you could do it that way, it was great. I mean, the times we did it, we would fly literally at green dot speed, min drag speed, the longest range speed, so weren't going fast. And we set off with barely enough fuel to get to London, and all the time we were updating our company as to whether we would be able to get there or not, or whether we'd have to land in Europe and top up just to make the last.
Now you were redispatched or some kind of redispatch scenario, or
I can't remember it. I was a first officer when we were doing this, because by the time I was the captain, we'd got agreements to route the quickest way through.
Would they have to do that, Rick? Because with the 4-engine and ETOPS probably wasn't a factor.
We used to redispatch on the 7.4 all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's not really an issue of ETOPS. So basically, redispatch has to do with the amount of fuel that you have to have in your tanks as a reserve to get you to your alternate.
Gotcha.
And that depends on the length of the flight. And so obviously the longer the flight, the more fuel you need to have as a reserve. So basically I remember we talked about this, when you redispatch, basically all you do is you're initially dispatched to an airport short of your destination, and that is your redispatch airport, right? So at that point, if you have the fuel required to get you from your redispatch point to your destination, then you're redispatched from that point to your destination, and the required amount of fuel you need as reserve is only the fuel that you would require for that short second sector. So
it's based on a percentage of the flight, then. Okay,
right. Gotcha. Instead of the total leg. Because imagine,
so we didn't call it that, Rick, but that's effectively what we did. So we cut down to absolute bare minimums. So. And it wasn't very comfortable, but we didn't do it very often, only when the season was really bad and we were getting really heavy jets against us.
Yeah. So, but I tell you, I mean, 5-hour flights. I love this stuff. Yesterday was what was it from where we left? Where the hell what was I yesterday? I was up in Rockford. No, I was in Stockton. Stockton to here, it was 2 hours, 47 minutes block time. It was fantastic. Banker's hours. I can get used to this. This is good stuff.
Our control room has a question for you two gentlemen. Being routed over the Antarctic region, is that a factor when it comes to ETOPS calculations?
Oh, yeah.
Because there's really not a lot. I mean, there's probably nowhere in the Antarctic continent that you can use as an emergency airport, is there?
Right. So exactly right. So ETOPS basically deals with having access to a suitable alternate inside of whatever your ETOPS certification is, be it 180, 120, or 300, whatever it is. Usually 180 minutes. So that means that at any point on the route, you need to have a field at 180 minutes at that point, right?
Okay.
So and it's the same. I remember flying over Africa, doing 7-4 runs down to South Africa and such. There are places where ETOPS does apply, even on a 747, because ETOPS it used to be that it was specifically related to the engines, but in cargo airplanes as well, you have to keep in mind that the efficacy of the firefighting equipment, particularly in the lower cargo base, because the main cargo deck does not have a fire suppression system aside from just depressurizing the airplane going down to 25,000 feet. Now the lower holds are equipped with chemical agents, and those have a time frame of efficacy, and so ETOPS is kind of predicated on that as well when you start dealing with that kind of cargo, especially the stuff that's called a CAO, cargo aircraft only, stuff that you can't carry on passenger jets.
Lithium-ion batteries, perhaps?
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Zombies. You can't carry
Or
zombies on
zombies.
a passenger aircraft.
I would recommend against that in any situation.
Yeah.
Well, apparently they do it in Rick's airplane. They just put them in a cage.
I thought you were going to say, no, they're up in the cockpit.
Yeah, it's sitting next to one, actually.
So, just to make sure that everybody understands listening, when we were talking about why didn't they just go straight across the Pacific Ocean directly, it looks like it would have been a shorter line. Well, on a flat projection, yeah, it does. But if you were looking at this on a sphere, a globe, and you put your finger at Buenos Aires and your other finger over there at Darwin, Australia, you would see that if you took a string, that shortest route would actually be that route that we see flattened out. What do they call that? A Mercator projection or something like that?
Great circle route. Yeah, that's exactly what we're getting.
So that's why we were just having some fun saying, why did they go all the way out of their way down there? But that actually is the shortest way to get there.
And if you really wanted to have some fun, you would actually have flown the other way, because the Earth rotates the other way. So
Yeah, good point. Why didn't they go the long way round? That's what I want to know.
Good question, Nick. Okay, let's move on to this one. Item G. Let's see. An Etihad Boeing 787, another 787, this time a -10, registration Alpha 6 Bravo Mike Delta, performing freight flight 9878 from Beijing, China to Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, with 3 crew, was on final RNP Yankee approach to Abu Dhabi's runway 31 left, descending through about 210 feet above ground, about 1.3 nautical miles before the runway threshold, when the commander spotted 4 red PAPIs, Precision Approach Path Indicator Lighting Systems is what PAPI stands for, or Instrument System, 3-degree glide path. So if you see 4, normally on a 3-degree glide path, you'll see 2 white and 2 red. But if you see all 4 red, that means that you're about a full dot below the glide path, or I'm not sure how.
It depends on how close you are to the runway, but yeah,
right.
It's.
I don't know. I've never seen 4 red.
I have on the ground.
Oh, very good, yes. And I am only joking.
Yes, and instructed to go. Okay, so they saw that, the commander saw that, he instructed to go around. And Simon, this is from the Aviation Herald, said Simon adds editorial note: according to a 3-degree glide path, the aircraft should have been at 463 feet AGL at that point, not 210. So more than double that height if you were on the glide path. The first officer initiated the go-around. The aircraft climbed to 4,000 feet as per their altimeter. However, 3,700 feet according to QNH setting as indicated at the ATC desk. So in other words, they said they were at 4,000 feet, and the air traffic controller was looking at it and going, no, we're showing you at 3,700 feet. And that was when they realized that they had used the wrong QNH, the altimeter setting, for this pressure system, this area. And so they went back and got vectored for an ILS approach to runway 31 left and landed safely. The Air Accident Investigation Sector determined that the cause of the aircraft flying below the vertical profile during approach was the incorrect local pressure, the QNH altimeter setting. Let's see. So they had some contributing factors to the incident here in their report. The crew errors involved the operating flight crew omitted to preset QNH value after receiving Automatic Terminal Information Service, ATIS, information, even though the commander had confirmed to ATC that their flight had received ATIS information India, which contained the QNH of 999 hectopascals. Say that right? I think I did.
Hectopascals.
Okay, thank you. Prior to and at transition level, the flight crew were fixated on the high energy management for the descent, so they must have gotten behind.
Really
and then
easy to do on the 787, yeah.
Such that selecting the barometric setting from the standard pressure of 1013 to the local QNH value was carried out incorrectly, or maybe not at all, I'm guessing. The VSD, what does that stand for? Vertical situation display?
Yeah, vertical situation display. Basically, it gives you a kind of like a vertical slice of what your descent path looks like. The aircraft descent path based on its flight path angle compared to what the required descent is based on the procedure that you're flying. So the idea is to have the aircraft velocity vector match the descent of the procedure, and that's how you know that you're on point.
Well, apparently they were not used or considered during the approach by the flight crew. At higher altitudes, the forward visibility was less than reported due to the presence of haze layers, of which are commonly associated with temperature inversions in the Middle Eastern region.
It's normal, yeah.
Okay, so now the air traffic control is not off the hook either, according to the investigators. They did not provide the airport QNH information along with the initial descent clearance from a flight level to an altitude, which they're required to do, I believe.
Yep.
Nor when they were issued the clearance of RNAV Yankee runway 31 left approach from the initial approach fix. And they did not provide instruction to check the QNH setting and the level of the aircraft when the activation of the minimum safe altitude warning was triggered on its radar screen. So a couple of chances there for the air traffic controllers to kind of break through this error that the crew had made. Primarily the crew's error, but air traffic control, they should have been saying these things.
That's true. Those Funyun rings were lining up.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. They were.
That Funyun effect.
I'm trying to see here if I'm pretty sure it does. Abu Dhabi has every bell and whistle. Every airports out there in the Middle East, they usually do. And I'm trying to see. Of course, they have digital ATIS, and so digital ATIS is really nice because what you can do is you can set it to update automatically. So every time a new ATIS report comes out, I'm sure you have that on the 747, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So every time a new report comes out, it'll just at 53 or 55 or whenever the thing is that they do it over there in the Middle East. I think it's on the hour. It'll ding, let you know that there's a new ATIS, and you just go through that. And the cool thing about the 78 and the triple and the 74, and I'm sure the 717 as well as that, and Airbuses as well, is that you could pre-select your QNH setting while still flying on standard, while still flying on 2992. And so as you descended through that transition level, you would, hit the button there to go from standard to QNH, and then the reference would be your updated QNH based on your ATIS. Now, based on and we were talking about this before we started here, the database, the FMC database, navigational database, for every airport on particularly these newer airplanes, has the transition level and transition altitude as part. It's codified there, so it knows what the transition level or altitude is, so that if in this case, if you're descending through transition and you forget to switch from QNE to QNH, the screen right down there on your primary flight display, the numbers will blink yellow, letting you know, hey, we're through transition and you're still on QNE reference, so it's time to perhaps change. And not only that, but on all Boeings I've flown, from the 757 to the 777, the approach checklist, the main part of the approach checklist is to check that transition from QNE to QNH for that particular reason.
Yeah, on our descent check and approach check lists, each of them have a reference to the altimeter setting. Just to.
Oh, so you guys do it twice?
Yep.
Oh wow. Okay.
Interestingly, on the report, let's see, the takeoff go-around toga mode was engaged with the simultaneous engagement of the autopilot when the aircraft was at a distance of approximately 1.3 nautical miles from the threshold. The indicated altitude was 570 feet. That's what they were looking at on their altimeters. And the radio altitude was around 210. That's a huge discrepancy. And the co-pilot, as a pilot flying, did not call for a go-around when he became aware of the vertical profile anomaly as he saw the 4 red PAPI lights. It wasn't until the commander saw the 4 red lights that he called for the go-around, and then the pilot flying, the co-pilot, went ahead and did it. But not sure. I guess they think that's a significant enough thing that happened there that they had to mention it here in this report. And I'm not sure if you're the pilot flying and you see four red lights. I mean, you shouldn't wait for the commander to tell you to go around. You should do it on your own.
I'm sure that's why they included it, Jim, because he was the first guy to realize that they were dangerously low and the situation was not right. So he should have just automatically gone around. He shouldn't have had to wait.
Yeah, I agree.
And it talks about here when they were turning right for a crosswind to a downwind leg at a level of 4,000 feet, as per the vectors provided by air traffic control. The approach controller requested confirmation that the flight crew had established the QNH setting of 998 now, and queried the flight crew about their present altitude, which was not a standard air traffic control request addressed to the flight crew. That was like, huh? Why are they asking about our altitude? This indicates the controller was not certain of the QNH setting in the aircraft since 3,700 feet was shown on the air ATC's display. Consequently, the flight crew realized that they had the incorrect QNH setting on their primary flight displays. The true altitude was 300 feet below the indicated altitude in the flight deck and was identical to the air traffic control display after they fixed that. So they went ahead and made sure all the altimeters were set properly, and then the story is, happy ending, happily ever after, except for the paperwork and probably having to talk to some people about
and
this.
The carpet dance that ensues afterwards. And but this is really interesting, and again, we were talking about that before we started recording here, and so these RNAV approaches have a electronically generated glide path, so they're very, very, very accurate, and they bring you right down to the runway. And in some cases, you have the LDA type approaches, which have in some cases lower than Category 1 ILS minima to them. But the way so this electronic glide path is generated, so it's 3 degrees, but the point where that glide path intercepts the I guess the final approach fix is dependent on the correct QNH. You have to be flying at the correct altitude to pick up the glide path at the correct point to bring you down to the runway at the correct point, because otherwise the geometry is going to be off, as we saw here. That's not the case with an ILS, because the glide slope portion of the ILS is ground based, and basically what you're doing is you're just following a radio beam down to the correct point, and that intersects your flight path, your altitude at a point in space, regardless of what your altitude is. and brings you down to the runway at the correct point. And so that's the difference there.
Unless they have the glide slope antenna mounted on some kind of a moving vehicle,
Exactly.
which they don't normally do.
And if that's the case, that should be on the NOTAMs.
They should.
Yeah.
And if it's not,
that moving vehicle could, of course, be an aircraft carrier.
Oh, yeah.
Rick, I was just going to ask you, when you're all set up and you know the aircraft is at the right altitude and your equipment will intercept the glide path and start taking you down the hill, what's your indication? The only reason I ask is because in the Airbus, it's not very obvious. You've got a little descent arrow indicating that you're going to commence a descent at this point, and it goes from blue to white. It's not a very big arrow. It's not like it's, oh, you're locked on, you're all set to go. There is actually an approach light that comes on as well, but you're usually staring at the nav display at that point, trying to confirm. What's it on the Boeing?
So on the Boeing, you have you're going to be flying this whole procedure on at least, well, the obviously the lateral aspect of it in what's called LNAV or lateral navigation. The vertical part, which is what we're talking about, the important part here, is going to be flown in VNAV. And when you are on a pre-programmed portion of a vertical profile, be it up or down, the vertical mode on the autopilot is going to be VNAV path. That tells you that you're following a vertical path. Now, once you are vectored from your base to final turn at your published altitude prior to going, starting down the hill there's going to be a little green dot right at the point where the airplane's going to start descending. And that's going to say T/D, stands for top of descent. And as soon as you begin down, obviously, the aircraft's going to pitch over, start coming down, and you're going to have ahead of the aircraft a green arc. It's called the altitude range arc.
No, it's not. It's called a green banana.
The green ball. That's the technical term for it, right?
That's what we called it.
Very good.
And then that green banana altitude range arc is going to tell you where the aircraft is going to be, where you're going to reach the selected altitude, which you're going to have set up on your mode control panel or flight control unit, whether it's an Airbus or a Boeing, is going to tell you where you're going to reach that position, that altitude along that track. Now, obviously, you're at some point you're going to need to reset your mode control panel altitude to your missed approach altitude, right? So that green banana is going to go away. But as long as you are on LNAV and VNAV path past the top of descent and the altitude range arc makes relative sense along that track line there. And you also have not so much on RNAV approaches, well, at least the newer ones, but on older, I guess less, not particularly LDA approaches, but just LNAV and VNAV approaches. On some places, you do have points along that track where you can do vertical altitude checks based on your distance. And so it's it's a very, very involved process because and there's an actual sequence in which you have to press the buttons, because if you press them out, at least on Boeing's, if you press them outside of the sequence, the airplane won't do what you want it to do. If, say, for example, you press a VNAV and you forget to reset your altitude to your MDA, your minimum descent altitude, which is what you're going to set the speed window to, you'll be in VNAV, but it'll switch from VNAV path, and then the second you go through your top of descent, since you haven't set a lower altitude, it'll go to VNAV out, which basically is an altitude hold mode, and you'll be in VNAV. And the VSD, the
not going to go down.
Situation indicator, is going to start going down. It's just like your glide slip indication, going down and down and down and down. And then you go, what the hell's going on? And then you forget, oh, shit, I didn't reset my altitude. Yeah. And that's where you start getting yourself into trouble.
That's a perfect illustration of why it's not as simple as people think it is.
No,
no. Oh yeah, wait a minute. This is all autoflight we're talking about here, and all we're doing is just pushing a button and watching it happen, right? No. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on.
I tell you, the easiest thing to do is a Cat 3B ILS. You have to monitor it. You have to have your hands on the controls. There are, a very intricate, system peculiarities depending on the aircraft that you're flying, and that there's the the runway, and then the aircraft, and the crew has to be certified and all that stuff. But you just let it do its thing, and it does a phenomenal job. You just press approach or land or whatever the case is, and the thing just lands. These approaches, you have to really, have your wits about you, know what you're doing. And at the end of the day, it is a manual landing, because you have to see the runway at a certain point and land manually, because these LNAV VNAV approaches, at least for now, don't have flare and rollout capabilities. So you have to land manually.
What's an IAN according to Mr. Boxes? That's why we like
IAN. IAN is integrated approach navigation, and LPV is a localizer type approach with vertical guidance.
Right.
IAN is so the 747, the -8, and the 787 has that, where when you're going to fly one of these VNAV approaches, like an LPV or an LNAV VNAV approach, you press the same approach button that you would press when you're flying an ILS. So you're basically arming the lateral path and the vertical path, be it an LNAV and VNAV track or a localizer and glide slope. It's just the same thing. It just simplifies the thing.
Cool.
So that's what that is.
Now, going back to that green banana, we had that on the Mad Dog, and because our box was more like the Boeing box, and now that I'm on the 717, it's like an Airbus box, and I don't have a green banana, and I really miss my green banana.
Yeah.
Well, they're much better for you than yellow bananas.
Well, they're a little bit more tart.
Yeah, there's not so much glucose.
Yeah.
All right.
That was good.
Good. Well, I'm glad we got a chance to talk about that. And the moral to the story here is set the right QNH setting in your altimeter and double check. Make sure if you're the pilot monitoring that everything is done properly. And then, look at the other cues that are there to save your life that, that would alert you that, wait, something isn't right. We shouldn't be at this altitude at this point, this distance from the runway, just some basic pilot brain math.
When we had to requalify for instrument ratings in the simulator, regardless of what profiles we were flying, the instructor would always have to make us climb above the transition level to set 1013 and descend back below it again to set QNH. And the only reason for doing that quite often was to go through the process of changing that altimeter correctly, because it was a pass-fail event if you didn't do that particular job. And that's been it's such a basic thing to do, to set your altimeter correctly, but it's so vital.
And here's another thing. I'm glad you touched on that, Nixter, because I wouldn't have thought of this otherwise. We are the only country in the world, the U.S., where the transition level is at 18,000 feet. There's places in the world, little tiny countries like Ecuador, for example, where I flew there for many years. The TMA for Quito, the capital, is at 18,000. But the TMA for Guayaquil, the city out on the coast, is only 3,000 feet. So you have to be mindful not only to switch from QNE to QNH, but also where the transition level actually is. So
yeah, I've been to a few airfields we've got very low transition level, and I feel really quite uncomfortable. I'm down at flight level 40. And I still have, I'm going, we're like setting the QNH as you're intercepting the ILS because it's so low. I really feel, I much prefer it to be up at a reasonable level. I always used to like the States because you got it done nice and early when there was no pressure and you weren't going to mess it up.
Yeah. You guys are at, I think it's at 6 over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I remember. Yeah.
All right. Good discussion. Now it's time to get to know us, but in this case, us is Rick, because he wasn't with us in part 1. We've already talked about what we've been doing since the last episode, and in this case, Rick is going to tell us what he's been doing since the last couple of episodes. And Liz is wondering if you've run any marathons.
No, I don't. I don't run marathons in my spare time like Dr. Steph does. I don't understand. I tell you, she's got superhuman DNA.
Yeah.
Wow, it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Me, on the other hand, no, not so much. I spent a week at home. I dealt with your usual home stuff that I have to deal with when I'm, back home, because stuff doesn't get done by itself. Changed out a couple of brake calipers in the car. Serviced the steering, the power steering reservoir, and then by that time it was time to get right back out to flying. I left for work last Monday. And then I did a flight from Ontario over to Rockford, Illinois. Spent the night there, and then from Rockford, it was my first officer's leg down to Stockton, which was nice. And it was nice because a couple of months ago, it was 2-3 months ago, maybe, on the same flight Rockford to Stockton, we had an issue with one of the autopilots. So the center autopilot was written up. And so we were flying with the left autopilot on that trip, and it was, or the right autopilot, because it was my first officer's leg, and that autopilot decided to quit as well, and so we find ourselves with no autopilots, and what are we going to do? So we did what pilots do, and we flew the airplane, and we had to go down below 28,000 feet, stay out of our RVSM airspace, and just hand flew it from about halfway point to Stockton. But this time, everything went fine. So my FO just flew the airplane, no problem. Landed in Stockton, spent the night there in beautiful Manteca, California. Had some good Mexican food. And then yesterday, we made our way from there to here, to Alliance. Beautiful weather coming in. Had a gorgeous sunset. And I'm here till tomorrow morning to head back down to Tampa. And then we end the day back up in Rockford. And the following day, Rockford, Ontario, for a day and a half of rest, and then to do it all over again. That's going to be my line until the end of the month.
All right. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
No, nothing.
All right.
Nothing's going on.
Very good. Very good. Well, why don't we then move into the part 2 feedback segment? And we have decided that we're going to jump to 8, and because we want to make sure that we get this feedback in on this show. And I'm sorry, 14. I'm sorry. Where did I get 8? I have no idea. Oh, because it's almost 8 minutes long, his feedback. So that might be what I'm thinking. Okay. Yes. Number 14. And so Lars writes in, I thought I'd share some thoughts with you from deep within the Arctic Circle, along with my thanks for creating this great content. I'm sorry my technical skills prevented me from recording the feedback through the website, but I trust you to forgive my mistake. Oh, actually, this is better, because if you had tried to do it through the website, Lars, through SpeakPipe, you would have been limited, I think, to like 2 or 3 minutes.
Something like that,
yeah. So you would have had to call, you would have had to do it like 3 times. So this was better the way you did it. So anyway, with that in mind, let's take a listen from this audio feedback from Lars.
Dear APG community and APG crew, greetings from deep within the Arctic Circle, calling you from way up north in Norway, and I would like to apologize for the background noises. I'm in my car, on my way to work. And speaking of me being with work, the past year and a half with COVID actually made me discover APG and the wonderful community you guys have built here. I used to be, I'm still a pilot. I just don't have a flying job. But I used to fly for an airline called Scandinavian Airlines, and along with so many others, I got relieved of duty last year. And this March, I was lucky enough to get a job in the armed forces here in Norway. The drawback being that I have a 4-hour drive to get to work every week, and that's actually how I came to discover APG, as it is a very nice driving companion. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but your your voices are really really relaxing when I drive. So
I'm not sure that I would recommend that, Lars. Lars, watch out! Watch out! Oh no,
Lars.
Lars, you there?
Yeah.
anyway,
Oh, okay.
I thought I'd take this chance to give you my feedback, and first of all say thank you for creating such great content, every single one of you. Dr. Steph, I love to hear about your GA flying. I do as much GA flying as possible myself, and I would really love to hear some more about your skydiving flying. Captain Nick, being an Englishman, of course, I can relate the most to you. I love the war stories that you offer, plain tales. They should really be published, book, video, audiobook, anything. You really have a gift for storytelling. It's a pleasure to listen every single time. And Miami rig, flying other than standard commercial operations with cargo. Really love to hear more about that. We don't have as much cargo operations over here in Europe, but it's really interesting to hear nonetheless how it's possible to actually fly for a living without having to deal with all those passengers. And of course, Jeff, thank you for being the head honcho in this. I'm sorry to hear about your personal problems, but it sounds like you are handling it like the true gentleman that you seem to be, and I wish you all the best. And of course, Liz, the great Canadian man. It's awesome to have you as part of this team. I'm positive that the quality of the show is lifted tenfold just by having you pulling the levers and pushing the buttons in the background. So thank you very much for that. I would like to give my fellow low-time pilots, colleagues, and aspiring pilots a few bits of advice. As many have already said through these audio feedbacks and through various internet Facebook groups and social medias and things like that. Staying positive, to me anyway, it's paramount. So you may have spent a lot of money trying to fulfill your dream and reaching a goal, but even though things are looking up now, airlines are still hit pretty bad, and many airlines won't hire for a number of months or even years still. But use this time to your advantage. Like your chance will come, absolutely no hint of a doubt. But take extra, take some classes, expand your knowledge, make yourself more attractive to an employer, any employer for that matter. But if you can do like part-time studies in, say, aviation management or anything, go for it. Make yourself the best candidate for any job. And having said that, I would also like to issue a word of caution, because with the surplus of pilots, a lot of not necessarily airlines, but at least recruiting agencies are now benefiting from this surplus of pilots with a number of schemes like pay to fly and really like mediocre or bad contracts where you as an employee basically have no protection. So please consider what you're signing on to. I know for a lot of you, the dream is to fly, and I know that you are willing to go to extreme lengths in order to fulfill that dream, but still don't sign up to anything. Stop and think and consider if the contract you're signing is worth it in 2 years. If you can get fired for reporting unfit for flight, is that really a place you want to work? So, anyways, that's my 2 cents. Anyway, thanks for the great content. Thanks for a great show, and have a very nice and pleasant future, everyone. So long from Norway.
Thank you very much. Great feedback, Lars. And I hope, Lars, if you're listening, that you didn't mind me embellishing it a little bit. The car wreck sounds and the gas equalization there after those fine things that he said about our producer director Liz. I added that too.
I assume a moose jumped out in front of him or something.
Yeah. No, those are very, very wise words, and it's I can see how an outfit or two without scruples would take advantage of the situation and not do the right thing. But as you said, you have to keep an eye out for that. I remember early on starting out, you basically are open to any kind of opportunity out there that would get you flying, but there's the right way to do that, and then there's the wrong way to do that. So the points that you make are clear, concise, and invaluable to people that find themselves in this just difficult, albeit temporary position. But thank you for that. It was great.
Twas. And he is so right about Nick's amazing capability for storytelling. And in fact, so much so that I'm wondering if the stuff that he claims as being real and true in his life, I'm not sure. I think that he may have made all that up.
Well, it is storytelling.
I know.
It kind of
You're full
goes
of
with
stories.
the title.
Yeah, Liz is saying that you hire that woman that comes in to play your wife every week when we see her. Wow, very clever.
Yeah.
What a ruse.
I know.
All right. Anyway, 3A, we're going to
keep
go
the real
to.
one in the attic locked away.
Do you? She's not quite as attractive as that fake one that you have there, huh?
Very true.
Let's see. Stefan. Oh, Stefan writes on Twitter, "Hey, APG crew, regarding APG 492, Ladon's question. Crew alarm during inactivity. Yes, it started with the Boeing 747-400, and it's called pilot response. A beeper will sound after some approximately 45 minutes of inactivity. Fun fact, the flight sim folks like to get rid of this during their flights." And then he gave us a link to a little of a bit of a discussion on a AvSim forum where people are not liking this obnoxious alarm going off.
I thought you wanted it to be as real as it gets.
Yeah, I thought so too, but apparently not. Not that real.
Not this part. Okay.
So that's true, huh? Rick?
It is. So, but it's So it basically the way the system works, as it's pointed out here, about 45 minutes you don't do anything. It'll blare an alarm first, slowly, like at a longer intervals, and then if you really are passed out, it'll be the same alarm as the autopilot disconnect alarm, which is very, very loud and obnoxious and annoying. Now there are certain switches that do not count to let the system know that you're awake, and other switches and buttons do. So the buttons that do are buttons that are associated with the mode control panel, changing obviously headings, altitudes, range of the map, tilt of the weather radar antenna.
So it's not like you have to turn the autopilot
No,
off and hand
no.
fly the airplane or anything like that. Okay.
So if you turn the volume up on your headset, or do something, or decrease or increase the temperature on the overhead panel, that's not going to do, or turning the light on or light off, that's not going to do anything. There are buttons that are the buttons that deal with that system specifically, at least, and Boeing's are switches and buttons that are related to the autopilot, the flight management computer, and other ancillary systems. So it's not everything.
Just to make sure you're engaged in some way.
And the thing with the one, at least for me, the one that I deal with a lot is the head button, the little knob there, because on airplanes, at least the ones that I fly, all of them, all the airlines that I've flown, the two airlines that I've flown for, the navigation display is oriented to track up, and so as the wind changes, and intensity and direction, the aircraft is going to track, and the drift angle is going to change, and we always keep the heading bug aligned with the drift angle that the airplane is presenting at that minute, because you don't really read your heading from the navigation display, because that's not your heading, that's your track. Your heading is actually up on the mode control panel, or in newer airplanes, on your primary flight display, it'll also be displayed there. And so you're constantly adjusting your heading to coincide with your drift, and so that will keep you away from having to deal with this annoying alarm.
Yeah,
and of course you only hear it if you're on the flight deck, Rick. So if you guys have bombed off back to the galley to sort out your
all
next
of you
meal,
exactly,
you're not going to hear it.
That's no good. Well, don't they
nice.
have a little ringer or alarm back in the galley too? No, I guess not.
Yeah, don't they give you a pager? So
a pager, right. Exactly. See, the thing what you do there is you just take the batteries off, and then you're scot-free.
There you go.
You're good.
There's always a way to get around all this stuff.
Always pilots.
Does the Airbus have something like that? Liz is asking.
no, we stay awake.
Of course.
Of course.
Yes. Okay. Let's move on to this last piece of feedback from Texas Charlie, and he sent us in this image from an ACARS display on a Boeing 777.
How do you know that's a 777?
Well, I don't know. I feel like
it says it in big letters.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of obvious. So the top part of the screen here was the first message: object potentially ballistic missile launched from North Korea at 3:40Z. They get this message, so it must be out there somewhere in that general vicinity, I'm imagining here. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been a warning that they would have had to have issued. And then the next one, about 22 minutes later, if I've done my math correctly, the missile launched from North Korea fell into the sea surrounding Japan. Resume normal operation. Now, I'm not sure exactly what they did besides whatever they were doing to begin with.
I was wondering that.
What can you do?
Yeah. They were probably just praying,
what have
maybe.
they done that they now need to resume normal operations?
They stowed away the cloaking device.
Oh, stuff that we really can't talk about on the show.
Yeah,
Secret squirrel.
Turned off the
stuff.
chemtrails.
There you go.
Yeah. Because, you got to be careful with those chemtrails, because those missiles sometimes will lock on to the trail.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's That's a Fox 2, I believe, Nick.
Yeah, well, it's certainly foxy. Yeah, those missiles are often anti-chem missiles, so, you know, you've got to be careful.
All right. Well, folks, it's time for us to wrap up. I can't believe it's already that time, but it's time for us to wrap up episode 493, part 2. And we do appreciate you all coming aboard with us in the live audience and, being there for us and helping us out with things. And we do appreciate all of you listening to this in the future at some point, the pre-recorded show, both the video, which is kind of entertaining if you want to see what we're doing and looking like when we're recording the show, or for most of you, the audio-only podcast that you've downloaded from your favorite podcast provider. And we do always appreciate any reviews you give us, because that really helps let other people know about our show. Now, of course, we've already resigned ourselves to the fact that we're never going to be the best podcast of all time, but we're still out there, having fun anyway and doing our best. So we do appreciate those 5-star reviews and telling people all about the Airline Pilot Guy show. And if you want to learn more about it, or you want to point your friends to it, it's our website, airlinepilotguide.com, where you'll find out more information about the individual crew members, the community. We have a community calendar for stuff going on, along with when we're letting you know when we're going to do the next episode, and some links involved with that. We have the APG library, if you'd like to read aviation-related books, and that's our librarian, Tiffany, that manages that. We have more expanded information regarding the Plane Tales on the Plane Tale page of our website. And by the way, just as a reminder, just wanted to let you know that you can also subscribe to Plane Tales as a separate podcast, and then you don't have to listen to all the other stuff if you'd rather not. Coffee Fund, there's information about that there as well, merchandise and ways to contact us, and so much more. So check it out, airlinepilotguy.com. And we're also on social media, and I'm going to let Nick and Rick fight it out to determine who wants to do the social meds.
That's that.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I should say Nick. Nope, he's blacked himself out. Okay, Rick, go ahead. It's you.
Everything Airline Pilot Guy related on Facebook is at Airline Pilot Guy. There, we're also on Twitter at APG Crew. Everything APG related is on there, and on the Instagrammers APG Crew. Cool pictures and everything APG Crew related there. And I believe Hillel does not have an option to black himself out now, does he?
I don't think so. Let's see.
Unless he's wearing a black robe. I don't know.
Hillel, do you have time for Slack?
Okay, but I'm dripping wet.
Okay, we're used to that. Come on over here. I'll move out of the way so you can get up in front of the microphone here and tell us about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo at airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thank you very much, Hillel. We always appreciate you telling us about that quasi-social media net.
Would you loof on my back again?
No, and I never have. Man. Sometimes is frustrating. Anyway,
He's quite pushy, isn't he?
he is. He's getting more so in his older age. Yeah. But we do appreciate him managing that thing we call Slack. And we also want to make sure that we thank our producer, director, control room person who tries to keep this all under control, Liz Piper in Toronto.
Bravo.
You're awesome. All right. And with that, it's now time for us to wish you a great week. Clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Take care, everybody. See you next time.
Cheers, everybody, for the second time.
That's true.
I'm thinking Jeff's green banana stuck under a bridge.
That's true.
Wow. Now, that is impressive.
Now, let's see the artwork on that one.
Yeah.
I've already got it in my head. That's no problem at all. Absolutely.
I was thinking, like, I miss my green banana. That was another one that came to mind.
Well, I'll let you pick the actual words, but I'm going to put a green
the artwork
banana
is done.
stuck under a bridge.
A green
lots
banana
of-
stuck under a bridge. Okay.
Yeah, with lots of logos on it, like Air India things. Like
Not
Liz
Air India.
suggested. Yeah, not Air India. Not Delhi Airport.
All
Not
right.
Acme Airways.
Not Acme Airlines. Exactly. All right. Well. Okay. Control room is telling us that we need to be off the air very soon. We'd like to thank our live audience. Thanks, guys and gals, for being here with us on a Friday afternoon or evening or whatever time it is where you are. And we do appreciate that. And we hope that you all have a great weekend and look forward to seeing you again next week.